University of Idaho Chamber of Commerce and the City of Moscow are hosting the second Vandal Town Block Party on the 25th of September. Would this be the first annual? Since it's the second one, I don't think it'd be the second annual, so this would be the first annual for the event, the second time we're having the Vandal Block Party. The idea of the block party is to promote the close connection between all our entities to show that we really have a great sense of community here in Moscow. But under Moscow City Code, open containers of alcohol are prohibited in the public ways and public streets, except by an ordinance that the City Council passed earlier this year that allows the council, authorizes the council to pass resolutions that would allow alcohol to be possessed and consumed within streets under certain circumstances and under limited conditions. So tonight there's a resolution before you that would actually grant authority to the city to be able to issue catering permits for beer and or wine gardens for during this event. I think one of the purposes of this, last year at the event it was well received. There was a lot of people, but they were trying to figure out ways to fill up the streets even more. And this gives an opportunity to move people into the center if they qualify and if they apply to be able to do a beer or wine garden inside in the city streets in the Moscow while music is going on and other people are going around. So tonight the council or the resolution spells out the particular date, the time limits on this resolution, and authorizes the city staff to issue the permits to allow the beer and wine gardens for this particular event.
Rod, this event is Friday, September 25th from the time of 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Is that correct? Okay. Questions for Rod? Jim?
Rod, is it going to require a fenced area for the beer and wine garden, or will it just be general Main Street where the street barriers are? Well, the street's blocked off.
For the particular beer and wine garden, we require them to have some kind of barrier that people can't crawl under, that there's only an entry and an exit place so that it's controlled, so it's not just flowing out into the street everywhere.
And that's what we had last year too, Jim. Walter?
Yeah, and I would say that we're not having Mardi Gras on Main Street. Would be my interpretation. It's what this is proposing. Last year, when we started talking about ways to communicate to the students that we have something more than a university campus. We've got a downtown, we've got merchants, we've got restaurants, we've got movie houses, and other things downtown. I was and still am a big supporter of Vandal Block Party by whatever name. I remember having this occur in the small rural land-grant town where I went to college. I thought it was a great thing then. I think it's a great thing now. I do have a problem with the proposal before us tonight. I don't believe that we need to open up Main Street to one or more beer gardens in relation to this event. We have opened it up to beer gardens for specific businesses that have a specific activity they wish to do. We're not anti-alcohol, but if we're attempting to introduce the new students that have come to Moscow to go to the University of Idaho to the downtown, I would suggest that the majority of those are freshmen, and the majority of those freshmen are underage to drink anyway. I've heard the argument that we need to show them how you can drink responsibly and morally and so forth, and I don't believe that's our job. I don't believe the city council is in charge of teaching morals or teaching how to drink. I think that we should be in charge of regulating where alcohol is consumed and when and why. And we have done that. We have allowed it. In other places we have not allowed it. So for those reasons, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that the proposed resolution before us tonight be denied.
Walter's motion fails for a lack of a second. Other question? Wayne?
Got a question, Rod. I don't remember in the ordinance. You'll have to refresh my memory. How do we control the size of these beer gardens?
Off the top of my head, I don't have that information. It's basically the discretion of the staff to make sure that it's something that can be controlled, so it's not too large to where you can't have basically controlled where the alcohol is being consumed and served.
Well, ultimately, when it comes to the council for approval on this, which each particular instance stands on its own, if we decide that the area that's going to be utilized as a beer and wine garden, if we decide ourselves that we think it's too big, then we can certainly make that determination. Is that correct?
Actually, I don't think you have that authority. It's actually law enforcement. The chief would actually make a determination whether it's something that they can be patrolled, controlled on the sides.
Okay, but to further my question would be that when the request for the beer and wine garden comes to the council, the size, we would know what the size is going to be at that particular time.
It wouldn't be coming to council. You're authorizing staff to authorize
Stephanie, would you want
beer
to
and wine
answer
gardens.
this, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what this resolution does is allow beer gardens in the area where you're going to have your event. Then each business that would like to have one has to come in for a catering permit, and that has to be approved by staff and by the chief of police. So what we did was we wrote into the resolution that it would, the size and where it is would have to be approved by staff, because it couldn't be anywhere that we already plan on having, if we plan on having booze or food vendors or anything that's out there, we obviously don't want to let somebody have something over, what is already planned. So we just figured anything would have to be approved by staff.
Approved by Chief Duke as
well,
well, right? Is that
But
what you
Chief
said?
Duke has to, or someone in the police department has to approve the catering permit.
The chief
And then
or
we
his
figured
designee.
we would let the city supervisor or his designee check out where they wanted to have it and size.
Carry
If I
on
may.
further.
Yeah, the issue, and typically what the council has limited its inquiry to in these situations is, number one, is it the sort of event that a beer garden, you would feel comfortable with a beer garden being in the public right-of-way? And a resolution usually addresses that, yes, it may be there, that you will hire security personnel to make sure that what is there is in accordance with law, so on and so forth. In this situation, with the pretty immediacy of the downtown block party, and last year the council had allowed extension of sidewalk cafes onto the frontage of adjoining businesses, where businesses could sell food, could have a beer garden, so on and so forth. The inquiry came up as to whether or not that would be extended now that the council has passed the ordinance allowing by resolution a beer garden to be in the public right-of-way. So anticipating that those requests would come forward, we had Rod draft a generic resolution, if you will, where the ministerial functions that staff does, that is the alcohol licensing, the catering, location, making sure that the fire code is complied with, that the police concerns are met, that someone could apply to have a beer garden, and then staff would make sure that it met all the requirements of the code. So that's kind of the genesis of this, and because it is a 6th Street to 2nd Street block party, street closure, if you will, there will be likely more than one vendor that wants to do that. They still have to comply with the same alcohol codes that any other sidewalk cafe or a beer garden in some other venue.
And also to Wayne's concern, yeah, normally when you have a resolution coming for you, somebody's asking for a particular beer and wine garden for their event that they're hosting, they usually have a map, so you actually, right, you do get to see that. This particular one, we don't know where they're going to be, and as city supervisor mentioned, it's coming up, so we probably wouldn't have time to come forward with particular maps showing where they would be out on the street. But I'm sure that the police officers or the chief of police or his designees going to make sure that it's not too big and doesn't overflow and affect other
But with
events.
that being said, when they come forward to get the permit, they will have that area
You have
designated
to have
that
a,
they're
you have to have a
requesting,
map,
correct?
yes. And then
So
the
if
city,
that-
the staff would approve that.
Okay. Wayne?
not that I think that this would happen, but my biggest concern would be that we end up with a half a dozen entities that want to have a beer garden. And so suddenly Main Street turns into one big beer garden with passageways in between it. I don't think that that would happen.
No, it wouldn't happen.
And that was one of my concerns, is that the council has the ability to make sure that this thing is controlled. As far as the responsibility of drinking, I think that this is another good example that is portrayed in the fact that we do not allow open containers on public right-of-way. This is an exception where, when we have a beer garden, that it is allowed, and as long as it's a controlled situation, I think it's fine. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Wayne and a second by Jim Boland to approve the resolution. Further discussion before we vote on this, Walter?
Not to be argumentative with staff, but a very quick reading of this just now, I don't see where it says staff shall review and approve. I also don't see anything, secondly, that says this is limited between 6th and 2nd. And I guess third, to play off of Wayne, I don't see anything that precludes everybody from downtown from having one, like he said. Okay, you got the 6th and 7th, okay.
About the fifth down.
Granting
Whereas
authority to
There
appropriate
should
city
be no
staff.
more than one entrance and one exit. Consumption shows on the map required by this resolution.
That only, Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
That fifth whereas that Art just pointed out to me only says that Moscow Main Street between 6th and 2nd is a city street. Doesn't say this is where this is being done.
Go three more down.
3 more down.
The event
Okay, the
location.
council gives authority to appropriate city staff, not the chief,
But it's
to
part of-
approve catering permits, but it doesn't talk about the size of the beer garden.
Sizes of the beer garden would be up to the appropriate city staff, which in this case would be the chief or the chief's designee. Is that not correct?
Correct, and the city supervisor or his
And the
designee.
city supervisor would have the final say-so. And I guess if the mayor wanted to get involved, the mayor could get involved.
Well, I think our staff could handle it. I'm fine, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Okay, other comments before we go for a vote? John, I'll start the roll with you.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No.
Okay, we got a 5 in favor and 1 opposed.